Okay, so today is Halls of Valor 14. This is one of the tougher dungeons, I think, currently, especially for melee. It's extraordinarily punishing, and as you can see, here we're running with 4 melee, so this is going to be kind of a rough dungeon. We time it, but we do have, I think, 11 deaths at the end of it. Um, Pretty much every mob here cleaves to some extent. This first one isn't too bad, kind of get everything killed. The big thing is when they drop below 30%, they enrage. We have a druid to soothe it, so it's not that big of a deal. And also our tank is doing a good job of kiting them. The next mobs, these guys, the champion, just hit kind of hard. The big thing is the Storm Drake. Storm Drake has 2 abilities. One is the swirlies that he throws, which are something crackling storm. They're pretty easy to dodge, just sidestep with them, that's it. The other one is he does a frontal on the tank, which is not dodgeable. The tank just has to take that hit. It's just a matter of him facing it away from everyone else. This specific dungeon, of all of them, I feel requires this Shadow Covenant kind of raw HPS build. There's a few fights where the heavy damage is just too prolonged for getting your shields to do the job, so I strongly recommend the build I'm running here. Overall, here, trying to keep powered shield on the tank as much as possible, and onto the first boss. First boss is very simple overall. He really doesn't do much. The only major damage he does is when he blows his horn, does a group-wide, physical damage. Unfortunately, timers right now seem to be hit or miss. I don't know why DBM timers are kind of off. So, here's the horn, here's the big damage. Once he blows the horn, the drakes will appear on either side. You have to see where they are, and wherever they pass through, that means that zone is going to be safe for the rest of this mechanic. So the middle one passes, so we walk over to it directly, and we can just stand here until the next time he does his horn. Besides that, dodge or swirlies, there really isn't much going on here. Now that we're kind of getting better at it, pushing a little further, trying to keep thundering as long as possible, unless there is some heavy damage coming, in which case I just want to clear it. I don't want to have to worry about clearing it while I'm trying to keep the entire party alive. Here we go. Middle Drake passed through. I was a bit slow on this. I should have gone faster. If the other Drake was where we were standing, I would have probably gotten hit by it. And it pretty much one-shots, and as a priest you don't really have great defensives, and both of mine are popped already, so. So here, the pat, that type of pat, you want to be really careful. That mob doesn't do much on its own. It does few spells that are really easy to dodge. There really isn't much damage that's guaranteed to go through. You just need to dodge it. It's not that bad. But the issue with it is it has an aura, which makes it that you can't interrupt or stun other mobs, which these need to be. The Mystics will do a heal, which will keep, I believe it's the Mystics, that will heal all its allies for 30% of its maximum HP. So that absolutely needs to get kicked. As a priest, that's not really your problem, since we are the only class without an interrupt, at least in 2 respects. So here, the champions, the big thing is they do a frontal, which applies a mortal strike. It's called Mortal Hue. Obviously, you really don't want anyone else but the tank to get hit by that. The tank has to take that hit, but everyone else is going to get hit very hard by it, and then you really can't heal them up. It's going to reduce his healing and absorbs by 25%, so there's really not, you really just have to be really careful here as a melee, and you'll see that our monk does get hit by a few times. Here we're pulling back, especially this week. That room is really, really tight between Sanguine, Thundering, Volcanic, and the runes that get put on the ground. There's kind of just not much room to move. So, drink when you can to get your mana back, and immediately this is a big pull, getting a Rapture going. I'm doing a really bad job at not dispelling that Thunder dot. It hits extraordinarily hard. That rune on the ground, that's the healing rune. The good thing with it is you can actually stand on it, it'll heal you as well. Over here, there's not much reason to stand in it. So Thunderstrike, try to get a shield on the person getting Thunderstrike, and then as soon as it gets hit, dispel, because the dot hits extraordinarily hard. So here, one of the Mystics got a heal off, and it kind of healed everyone up. So as you can see, now everything's kind of back to full. So there's no Thunderstrike. Spell right away. I left it on for a little bit too long, and you see how much damage it does. This middle room is pretty rough if the group doesn't know what it's doing, but this tank, I feel even more so than most, is very, very reliant on the tank. The tank really needs to know what they're doing. This tank was very good. He knew where to face the mobs. Couldn't get through here, so just Mind Soothe the Pat. That is one of those pats. You can see the aura on the floor. That's the one that makes it so you can't interrupt. So if you pull him with the Mystics, they're going to get the heal off, and there's really not much you can do. Here, Monk ripped aggro and died. But, so Thunderstrike on the Druid, get him up. The other thing with Thunderstrike is when it hits, it will... Here, I should have... The spell was on cooldown, so I just couldn't get the... I should have mass dispelled, but I canceled it last second, but at least I get to use it here. Yeah, that was a good Ring of Peace. Get him out. There you go. Our Druid got hit by those frontals too. Again, it's just this is a really, really, really rough dungeon when you're running all melee. I am very much dreading running this on my monk. Here we're kind of killing everything slow since two of our DPS are running back. They finally get back to killing. Really isn't much here. No reason to burn much of anything here. There is a mini boss coming up who has a lot of health, and the pull right before it is pretty rough.
I will purge them from these sacred halls myself.
Again, the Shield Maidens are just hit very, very hard. So, Purifier, those Cleansing Flames need to get kicked. I believe it's an AoE dot that it goes through, and it hits very hard. No reason for you to be taking that damage. Oh, it's the swirlies. There you go. So, it went off. Okay. Manage. Monk, again, getting hit by that Mortal Hue. And, I mean, he's getting hit by it, but honestly, it's not very much his fault either. It's extraordinarily tough to dodge these.
I cannot drink more of this.
And there's just so many mobs, and who knows where one of them might be facing you, and it's tough. You could pay more attention, but it's an understandable mistake to make. Remember, here you want to be casting a light spell followed by a shadow spell. to get that 15% extra damage. And if you can, you also want to be, it's extremely powerful with your power Shadow Word Death, because you can Shadow Word Death, Smite, Shadow Word Death, Smite, then your Shadow Word Death just hits extra hard. Tank's waiting for me to get mana because I was out of mana on the pull before. Okay, so now is the mini boss. So when she targets you with the swirly, she'll target the furthest one away. You can LOS, that. Um, so that's extremely powerful because that is going to hit the person it targets, and you can just keep LOSing it. That time she casted it right away to the tank, which is weird. But there you go, cast it on me. Get out of the way. If you want to have it keep casting on you, what you want to do is LOS, and as soon as it's gone, show your face again, so you're in line of sight, she'll target you again, go out of line of sight again. It's kind of tough to do it, but you can do it, and she'll basically just stand there while your DPS is killing her. It's important if you have ranged in your group to tell them, hey, stay closer, let me be max range. These two mobs do a much less powerful version of the boss's ability here. This hurts very, very bad, even on Fortified week. On the boss, this one obviously not doing too much damage. Nothing Radiance, Smite, Penance, and Mind Blast won't fix.
Find shelter.
This next mob, including the boss ability that he shares, extraordinarily rough on melee. Again, it's those little swirlies that he shoots out from Sanctify right here. The bosses will one-shot most people. Here, it's fortified, so normally these hit not very hard, but it is fortified, so they are hitting a little bit harder. But when it comes to the boss ones, they will just straight up one-shot you. Your disc, your priest, you really don't have a reason to be up melee. Get out of there. It makes it much, much easier to dodge. And see, it's just, they're getting hit for 75% of their health just from the trash version of the spell, the non-boss version.
The light shines eternal in you, Persia.
Resur Rogue. A Rogue is our highest damage, so I'm gonna believe a single target damage, so I believe I Power Infusion him. Power Infusion, pretty much use it whenever you can. I do it before big pulls. It's only a 2-minute cooldown. Odds are you're gonna have it. Just make sure you have it for bosses. Specifically, this boss, you really... So here, the timer actually was wrong. So here I am, I'm rapturing, and she didn't dome. So, luckily my atonements are on for a while. Most of the shields are an okay amount of time, so luckily the timer was pretty lenient. You'll see everyone still gets hit pretty hard. That was through Rapture shields. Normally if I have Rapture there, I'll just keep reapplying the shield to the entire team, and everyone will generally get out with about 70% health. Back to this side. This side's pretty easy. You want to shield the person who's getting targeted by that. You want to make sure nobody else gets hit by it, otherwise it's going to get Expel Light because it'll bounce to the next person. Just shield the person who has it, and it'll absorb most of the damage, if not all of it, if you crit. Our tank got hit by a Sanctify, and it hurt. Alright, back to this side. So normally, when she does her special here with the Dome, the first one I like to cover it with Rapture. The second one I cover with Dome and Shadow Fiend. So here I Shadow Fiend, throw the Dome down, Radiance, and just start your DPS. The reason I do Rapture first, then Dome, is because generally in the set, it's the Dome version of this is a much stronger damage reduction, and like that I'll have, if it comes down to us having to do it a third time, I'll have Rapture back up, so I'll be able to cover the last one with Rapture as well. Mind suit these just in case. So these mobs, the biggest thing you really want to look out for is the marksman. Kind of keep them targeted. They don't do much, but once in a while they'll disengage and do a piercing shot. Now, when they disengage, they're going to jump back, and they're going to piercing shot always at the tank. So you never want to be between the tank or behind the tank and the mob. You don't want to be in a straight line there. So you want to just make sure you're always out of the way. I will die to it later, because there was just a lot going on, and I couldn't find where the marksman was. So here, we kind of did a really messy pull. Tank doesn't have aggro, so you'll see that our monk gets the dot on him. He's out of range, or out of line of sight. I can't dispel him, he's gonna die. But tank didn't have aggro. I would have healing aggro if I stepped out, and I could have gotten one shot. And as a healer, you're more important than DPS. If you die, the group dies. If DPS dies, you'll kill things slightly slower. So there's the marksman on my left, and now this is the messy part. Try to get a rogue up, dodging things, and here I run through to clear these stacks, get out of Sanguine, and you'll see in the back right, there's the marksman, piercing shot, dead. That piercing shot will generally one-shot you. There's not much you can do about it if you're in the way. I just couldn't see where he was, so now we wait for a res. It also doesn't help that when you're in that room, your screen starts to glow white because you're in the portal area, and there was so much going on, I just couldn't even see what was happening. And normally I like to keep the marksman targeted, because even though they're kind of a lower priority kill, I'm not doing that much damage. In these kinds of situations, it's more important to survive than to do the damage to the correct mob. Again, you're only dealing about 10k DPS, while your DPS and your tanks are dealing 3 times more than you at least. So over here is the second Storm Drake. So he is going to pull no matter what. He is unavoidable. What you need to be careful with is, you saw when he landed, he immediately killed a stag. When he does that, if you drag him near a stag, he will eat it, and that will give him 10% more damage and 10% more HP permanently. So when you tank him, you want to tank him in place. He still has the same 2 abilities, Crackling Storm, which is just a swirly, and the cone, the frontal cone, Lightning Breath, there it is on the tank. Give him a shield. Still chunks him for 30% of his HP. Here we avoid most of the mobs. We'll get the bulls on the way back for percent. And next comes Fenrir. Fenrir it's really, really rough, even on like Fortified Week. He is one of my least favorite bosses. Definitely my least favorite in here. So he has several abilities. One, Unrelenting Howl. No damage from that, it's just an interrupt, just don't cast during it. Claw Frenzy. This is the worst ability in my opinion. So the damage is split evenly amongst everyone in there, so you want to be in there. If your tank is alone, he's going to get one shot. Here, the thing is, he does it randomly, so I try to time that dome, I miss it. Luckily, he casts one again, and you'll see it really helps having the dome up. Much less damage.
Stop casting.
The other ability he does, third ability, is the leap. So the leap, you want to stay a little spread out. He'll leap, and it does, I think, a 5-yard splash damage. So you want to make sure you're not next to other people. Now, the first person he leaps on is the furthest target. So if you have a hunter, mage, or rogue, what you can do is have them step away when it's coming up, be the furthest target, and if they feign death, invis, vanish, whatever it is, any way of breaking combat, it'll actually cancel the entire leap. So it's a very good strat to use. Ebon Claw Wargs, the Other thing with them is they will also leap on a random player. The important thing here is you want to be close by so you can still continue to cleave them, but they have a 3-yard splash when they leap. So you want to be loosely spread. This is, again, really, really rough when your entire group is melee. As you can see, he got leaped on and got another one nearby, splash, got killed immediately. They do an insane amount of damage on Fortified Weak. The tank will likely be popping cooldowns for this. So here we go, and you see they do about a third of my health, and here just you have to keep everyone at above 50%, just so they can survive at least one leap, if not more. So in the second phase, Fenrir does all the same things, except his Interrupting Howl summoned 3 of those wolves, but they're much, much, much weaker. They still deal a lot of damage, but they're much weaker, so you can just cleave them down pretty easily. The other thing is he'll fixate on somebody. If he fixates on you, turn around and run. Don't backpedal. If you run straight line, you will outrun him. He'll follow you for 6 seconds, and that'll be it. So here's the leap. I'm furthest away, so he's going to leap on me. I was out of range on that. I thought I would be in it, but I was a little too far, so my team took the damage without me. Here we're running, making sure tank has a bubble on him. Step on a volcanic. Rapturing here and kind of in preparation for waiting for him to do his frenzy, but he did not. Leap, spread out, so the splash doesn't hit you. It also leaves a pretty nasty bleed, so you want to follow that up always with more healing. So here we go. This, as you can see, it really, really hurts. And sometimes he'll just do it 2 or 3 times in a row, and it's just so much damage to try to power through. Here, I had fallen behind a little bit on healing, so I popped Shadow Fiend. Probably not the best place to pop it. I won't get full use out of it, but there's not really much between here and the last boss that I really need it for. Well, the last 2 bosses that I need it for, so I know I'll have it up for the next boss. We're going to skip this pack of these guys, the Hunters. They're not that bad. The Hunters leave a bear trap that basically step in it stuns you. It's kind of hard to see sometimes, so they're just... they're skippable. The bulls are a lot easier. Just stay out of... Again, they do an AoE stomp. You just want to be out of the way. The rest is mostly just tank damage. They'll do a little charge on the tank. So again, more frontals, more melee things to dodge. It's a very, very rough dungeon for melee, and I honestly don't know how Mistweaver would handle this in a Fist Weaving build, because in Fist Weaving you lose so much healing if you're not in melee range. Continued. Yeah. The AoE Touch of Death from the Monk is very nice to finish these guys off quickly. They were all pretty low. And on to the last few pulls. This was my 4th run of this dungeon in a row, just trying to get a good run, and I was hunting for a cape, which actually ended up dropping, and the warrior gave it to me, which was really nice. It's kind of a lower level than my current cape, but it's best in slot stats, so I can always upgrade it with Valor down the line. So these guys are pretty easy. Again, you can't interrupt anything they do, and they can't be stunned because of their aura. But all they do is the crackle, which if they do, just sidestep, easy to dodge. And the other thing they do is the giant circle, you just need to run away. Here I make a mistake. I should have gripped the druid. I didn't realize it was only us left with Thundering. I was just not paying attention. Also, when they get low, you'll see they put up a bubble. Just purge that. I run the spell in this dungeon just for this. It's not mandatory. If you have a shaman or something, there's no reason for you to take it, and your point is probably that point in your town tree is probably better used on Shadow Word Death damage reduction. If you get in those situations, you should just grip the person who has the opposite thundering. Here the team goes on ahead, start the RP while I get the res out. Those two mobs, you can actually pull them all the way up, start the RP, and kill them while you do that. It's a small optimization, but here we had a decent amount of time. We weren't going to +2 it, but we know we can definitely +1 it. As you can see, a lot of deaths, but it's a rough dungeon. Like I said, I think the tuning on this one's a little rough, especially with this group comp. Maybe with range, it's just a lot of the damage does become negligible, but so these guys, all they do is unruly yell, kick it. There's not much else. These first two, the last two, the guys, the third and the fourth guy on the right there, do a bit more AoE damage, a little more group damage, but nothing outrageous. See, since there's not much happening, just gotta hang back for a bit. All of the videos so far have been with pugs. I do run with the guild sometimes, but I mostly just tend to pug a lot of the time. Just kind of get runs going as fast as possible. There's some go better than others. I mean, I have plenty of videos where we don't finish in time. But I feel with those, there's not as much to learn because a lot of times there's just things fall apart. Somebody misses an interrupt and everyone dies. And if we don't really see the whole dungeon, it's not really worth uploading, I don't think. So again, not much, just severs, just a tank buster, not too much to do. These two, they'll summon ads that can be CC'd. Just don't let the ads get to them. That's about it. Once in a while to do a little like group damage. Wicked Dagger will just throw a dagger on somebody. It's never that much damage, and you can't tell who it's going to be, so you can't really do much about it. Hero's getting in position to fear the ad, but we entangling roots at it, so saving my fear for the next one. One thing with flash heal, when you have your instant free flash heal, so here I go for it again, but this gets paralyzed, so save my fear for the next one. One thing with flash heal is if you have the instant flash heal here, like I do right here, one thing to remember is it's generally better to cast it on somebody else unless you really need it, because you will have binding heal, which means you will receive part of the healing. More importantly, it will apply 15-second atonement on your target and you. So, like that, you can get 2 atonements with 1 spell, and they're full-length atonements, so it's very, very powerful. And your tank should pretty much always have an atonement just out of Power Word Shield. Here's the last one. I go for the Fear. Not completely necessary, considering he's basically dead, but... So, next is Skovald. Skovald is pretty simple. His damage patterns are pretty predictable. He only does one thing that you need to really shield. He'll just target a player and leap on them. It doesn't do that much damage, even at a 14. Probably does a lot more in Tyrannical Week, but yeah, just a Power Word Shield will suffice for that. Besides that, Ragnarok is mostly the tank's responsibility. Because you pick up the shield, the Aegis, and he uses it, causes the shield, and you take no damage from it. It's important for melee to use it because you want, while he's casting Ragnarok, he does not move. So you want your melee to still be in range. So generally, it's best for the tank to hold on to the shield. There's the Fell Rush, single target. I missed the Power Word Shield. It's okay, it's not that much damage. It puts a little dot, so... Some people think this boss is worse than Odin. I think Odin has a lot more. All the damage is essentially avoidable, but when the damage goes through, it's much, much more punishing. He's got stuns. Well, here, it's just a little bit of damage. These guys will fixate on somebody and walk after them and leave a puddle. It's really not that big of a deal. They don't have much HP, and if anything, they're kind of good for you because you can spread more of your Purge the Wicked, which means more passive healing for you through your atonements. A lot of times, what you want to do is, since I'm still running Wheel and Woe, you'll see a lot of times I'll get Wheel and Woe procs up to 7, and I'll actually delay throwing the Power Word Shield, smiting, because my Power Word Shield isn't up, so I'll use something else. Mind Blast, Divine Star, something. Just so I feel the 7 stacks on Smite doesn't really do much, but the 7 stacks on Shield does a ton. 35% more absorb is way better than 35% more damage on Smite, which Smite isn't that great. So, Odin is 90% positioning. The damage he puts out isn't that intense otherwise. The big cooldown here is, I personally like to Rapture when we get Runic Brand, which is where you get a rune to run to the rune on the ground that matches, because it does a lot of damage during it, but you have to get to your rune very fast. So basically, it just buys everyone a little bit extra time by having that shield. Once they reach their rune, they're full healed, so it's not a big deal after that. So the spears, if that orb hits you, it will stun you. You can get some pretty nasty combos here with Thundering, where it just feels like you need to kind of stack or run. There's a lot of movement. It just can go wrong very, very fast. Radiant Tempest here, your top priority is run. The timer on it is very, very tight, and as a priest, you don't have much movement. Make sure you have an Angelic Feather up for it. So Shatter Spears, again, this becomes a bullet hell. All the spears explode to 5 orbs. If one of these touches you, it stuns you. If it stuns you during Runic Brand, that is a death sentence. So there you go. See, I had a Rapture Shield on everyone. And here, just burn your cooldowns. I also used a Shadow Fiend during it, because again, it adds more healing while everyone's trying to find their rune. And on top of that, afterwards, you get extra damage. So your Shadow Fiend's already attacking him with that bonus damage. I almost got hit by those orbs there. That was very bad. And he's dead. You want to also save your Power Infusion for this phase, because the bonus damage. If you have Lust, you should also save it there. We use some drums there. There we go. That was Halls of Valor timed. We have 4 minutes left, so pretty decent time. Yeah, that's it.